This is
Essential.
This is Essential Audio.
Hey all, welcome to the MoneyPot, our podcast from Money 2020. I am Rachel Morrissey, a content producer for Money 2020 USA, and I'm joined by Sanjeeb Kalita, Money 2020's editor-in-chief. Hey, how are you in the stash, Sanjeeb?
Hey, Rachel. The mustache is most definitely socially isolating. How's Brooklyn?
A little surreal. It's sunny, but there's tons of sirens at this end. For the most part, I'm just doing my patriotic duty by staying inside and eating takeout to support local business. How about you?
Same, except the takeout. My wife and I really like to cook. My life seems to be a series of video conferences and phone notifications.
Yeah, I know the feeling. But we did get to talk to some amazing people this week.
Yes, we did. I'm really excited to tell you about my friend Riddhiman. He's doing some amazing work in data privacy that is so helpful at this time. In order for us to combat this virus, we need to socially isolate, track the spread, and develop a vaccine as quickly as possible. As the virus spreads around the globe, each one of those becomes very difficult because of different circumstances.
So we are trying to socially isolate, but in the West, meaning, the traditional West, we have not been as extreme about it. The U.S. has had a particularly weak response. Bill Gates wrote an editorial that was published in today's Washington Post about the need to create a national lockdown and not a state-by-state or community-by-community response.
Yeah, and all of that is complicated by what job you hold and whether you're an essential employee. Right now, essential employees are everything from grocery workers, truckers, and of course, the medical community on the front lines of it. This is also complicated as it reaches communities who don't have social distancing space. So while many of us have the option to isolate, not everyone does. That's why tracking the spread is also vital.
However, tracking COVID is tricky because it passes from person to person. And I know that some countries are using GPS localization and Bluetooth from people's phones to track exposure. And it's hard to argue against that utilitarian approach when so many lives are on the line. But it feels like it'll open a Pandora's box and we could end up kissing whatever vestiges of privacy we still have goodbye.
I definitely agree. And that's exactly why I'm so excited to talk about Riddhiman's work. He's developed a technology that can preserve that privacy yet still make that data completely usable. But let's back up so we can tell you who he is. Riddhiman Das is a computer scientist who started a company called iVerify.
So I did a startup called iVerify where we were building the ability to identify people based on the red blood vessels in the white part of your eye. The beauty of that technology was that when we started, we were the world's first software-only biometric in that we can identify the red blood vessels that are in the white part of your eye completely based on just the images captured by a selfie camera. And as cameras got better and phones got faster, we started to see a lot of traction, and obviously the experience got better. We ultimately ended up exiting to Ant Financial. Ant Financial is the sister company of Alibaba.
So he worked on the biometrics for identity that work in Alipay.
Yep, but that was just a start. As he worked at Ant Financial, he helped them scale the technology around customer ID and anti-money laundering. Then he became a VC, and as he was building a portfolio, he began to realize the need to create products that protect privacy and make data accessible.
So at the end of 3 years with Ant Financial, I left to help co-found TripleBlind. TripleBlind is delivering privacy as a service. So think of us as building the privacy layer of the internet, where operations can be performed on data while it's in its encrypted format. And the advancement we have is neither the data or the algorithm has to be decrypted in order for them to execute.
Wait, he said they don't have to unencrypt the data or algorithm to use it? Typically, they have to share a data set and the algorithm to use the data in any meaningful way. For example, a customer applies for a credit card, the bank would ask for their data from the credit bureau, and the credit bureau would encrypt it to send it over safely, but the bank removes the encryption.
Yeah, and then they have a complete data set, so the bank has all that data now, not just what they may need. That leaves a lot of potential for fraud or abuse. So they've created a homomorphic encryption.
What the heck is a homomorphic encryption?
He explained it to me.
So the way homomorphic encryption works is that the operation that the counterparty does on it, or whoever does on it, is actually done on the data while it's still encrypted. So you can manipulate an encrypted blob of data, if you will, without knowing what's inside it, in a way that you can still extract the value of the information from the data without learning anything about the data set itself. So that's a little bit about homomorphic encryption, how it's different from state-of-the-art. As long as something is able to be represented in bits and bytes, it's data. In state-of-the-art homomorphic encryption, you can perform all mathematical primitive operations on it. So you can do an addition and a multiplication and a subtraction and a division. Where triple blind's innovations come in is that we extend it to perform all arbitrary computations while the data is hidden or encrypted, which is to say we can do exponents, we can do comparisons on the data, we can do other nonlinear operations, therefore then allowing all classes of algorithms to operate on hidden data.
Homomorphic encryption also allows us to only work on the data halves that we need. The application works for financial services, but it also works to create the privacy shield that would make you more comfortable with access to your GPS information.
Then the community health organization can broadcast that nationwide or even to their independent county there. And the phone does something called a private set intersection, which is a cryptographic technique to determine if you've got any data that some other party also has without revealing to each other what data you've got. So therefore, the entire population that is using the apps can determine whether they have been exposed without necessarily giving away, or without at all giving away, their private location information or GPS or Bluetooth signals. So this is an attempt to show to the world, number one, that you don't necessarily need to build a surveillance state to track COVID-19. And number two, all of this is able to be done in a completely decentralized, privacy-first way.
So they can use all our information without over-collecting our personal data and basically, spying on us. I mean, it changes the nature of data use completely. That's an amazing development.
And it wouldn't only help governments know where to quarantine. It can also be used by hospitals and healthcare facilities to gather information they need to help their own workers stay healthy.
We have heard that even for medical workers, let's say one of our partners in that effort was the Mayo Clinic, they want to determine if any of their healthcare employees has been exposed to the virus, and therefore in real time determine which employees are safe to come to work versus which employees should stay home. And so an organization-wide adoption of this particular app has helped them make a better educated decision as to who they are able to tap into coming to work.
So it can be employed in financial services and in health services, but it could also be employed in any cases where privacy is an issue.
Absolutely. And that's a huge game changer for internet privacy in general.
That is amazing. Well, I had a very different interview this week, but it was also in response to COVID-19. The Mastercard Impact Fund joined with the Gates Foundation and Wellcome to start a COVID-19 Therapeutics Accelerator, and I got a chance to speak with Mike Froman, who heads that fund.
We made the judgment early on in this crisis that while we were focused on financial inclusion and the future of work and economic development, the biggest threat to inclusive growth right now is, in fact, COVID-19. We know that it's having a significant impact economically, and we know that when shocks to the economy like this occur, it's those who are most vulnerable who tend to suffer the most. And so when we were approached by the Gates Foundation, who we had done work with over the years, including the development of a financial inclusion lab in Nairobi, where we worked together to create products for financial inclusion, when they approached us about joining themselves and the Wellcome Trust to launch this therapeutics accelerator, we were immediately interested. In our view, if we could, there's so many worthy causes to give to. right now around the crisis. But if we could help support the effort to actually come up with a treatment for this disease, it would do more to create confidence, to help people, to get the economy back on track than anything else that we might be able to do. And so we made a $25 million commitment to the accelerator, together with Wellcome Trust, Gates, and now most recently the Chan Zuckerberg initiative and the UK government. It's now up to a $200 million effort.
So joining up to fund direct work against the disease, as opposed to the effects of all the quarantining and the financial woes it has brought, is one of the broadest efforts that I have seen.
Yeah. Most responses from financial services have been around mitigating the effects of shutting down the economy. So I asked him why they thought this was the effort that made the most sense.
We made the judgment as a global company that the interests of our company were very much intertwined with the interests of the global economy. And this is the most significant threat right now, first and foremost, to the health and welfare of individuals, our employees, our partners, our communities, people all around the world, but also as an economic challenge. And so I would hope and urge other companies that similarly see the impact of the virus on the communities and on the economy to join our effort, to join this effort, to try and find a therapy as quickly as possible. And we'd be happy to share our perspective, how we got to yes on this proposal, why we think it makes a lot of sense to support. We're happy to share our experience with any other companies that are interested.
So they're inviting other companies to join?
Yeah, they are welcoming any other companies to join the effort. They just formed 2 weeks ago, and they've announced that they will give $20 million to the University of Washington, La Jolla Institute of Human Immunology, and Oxford University. And those institutions are starting clinical trials this week.
Wow, they were able to do this quickly. So where are the trials starting?
So the Gates Foundation has over 10,000 compounds that they are testing, including the antiviral hydrochloroquine. First, they are looking for ways to alleviate the effects of COVID-19. But Bill Gates wrote in his op-ed that they are hoping to develop a vaccine in 18 months.
That is a very sobering perspective on how long we'll be dealing with this.
Yeah. But I think it's great that Mastercard had the perspective that it could contribute to the root problem preventing economic prosperity right now.
Yeah, it's definitely the perspective we all need to keep. That's it for this episode of the MoneyPot. We'd like to thank Riddhiman Das and Mike Froman for being our guests.
And I want to thank Roland Bodenham, our producer. And just mention again, Money 2020 Asia has opened their startup pitch applications. And Money 2020 USA has opened up their call for content. So go to the website and submit your applications. And as we said before, Money 2020 Europe will be at the end of September, on September 22nd through 24th, still in Amsterdam. So get your tickets now.
And remember to subscribe to the MoneyPot and leave us a review on iTunes if you like the show. Tweet us at Money2020 with suggestions for the show too. Thank you.
This is
Essential.
This is Essential Audio.